Have you ever wanted to take a whole month off of work? Because I know I have, and today's guest has actually made it happen. So, everybody, welcome Hannah Allen, one of my friends that I've had the pleasure to work with on different clients over the last, I don't know, at least a year. But Hannah is the owner of Hannah Allen Studios that she founded in 2019, where she gets to work with super busy, multi passionate entrepreneurs, business educators to help them focus on what they actually want to do, which is serving their clients. And she steps in as their business operations manager and really helps to free their plate so that they can work on what they love. And if that sounds a little bit familiar, that's often how I describe what I do too, which I think is why Hannah and I get along so well. Her clients have called her a business therapist, but she's a firm believer in putting boundaries around your work so that you can build the life you're called to live. And she doesn't just help her clients do this, but she lives it out. Case in point, Hannah, you took a whole month off this summer. How was it? Like, you stepped away from work, you stepped away from all your clients. Like, how was it?
Yeah, it was good. It was good. This is the second year that I've done that. This year looked a little bit different. Last year was definitely a lot more like completely off. And, I didn't even open my email, barely open my laptop unless I was doing something else. This year I did a little bit more like internal work, but it's nice to be able to take time off, remind myself that I do have a life outside of business and that I don't have to, like, I won't be bored if I'm not working, which is a large reason why I decided to do that. Our church does a lot of things in the summer, and it's just a lot easier to be involved with that without also having to work on top of that.
What did that month look like for you then? What were you doing where you're like, okay, I'm not bored if I'm not working?
So this year we had a student summer camp at the beach. So I did that and then went out of town for a little bit. I took July off. So I went out of town for the 4th and all of that. And then we have a fine arts camp at church as well for kids. And I was assistant directing that. So most of my time was spent with, all the logistics that go into a camp and making that work. But outside of that, I was able to keep up with laundry and do all of those things that I don't always get to keep up with. I also read through the Bible, and I thought I was going to do a lot more reading. That ended up being kind of the majority of my reading there. Not as much screen time, which was nice. This year, I also worked through a copywriting course that I'm taking and other business stuff and kind of getting ahead. It was just a nice month to just kind of relax and do the things that I needed to do or that I wanted to do without also having to do client work, which I love. Like, I love my job and I love working with my clients, but it was nice to take a break.
I think I've talked about this on the podcast a bit, but in the last month have found myself like the first thing I think of when I wake up is work. And the last thing I think about when I go to bed is work. And I have started to just keep my phone on do not disturb all day again, put it away like hours before bed, not even have it by my bed when I'm sleeping. And that has helped.
Yeah.
But I'm really curious. I know you were still this time doing some things like internal work and like copywriting leads to work. But I'm curious how long it took you to kind of get your mind to feel like it didn't have to think about work all the time.
Oh, that's a good question. This year, don't think I really got to that point because I was still doing internal things. Last year, I'm trying to think. It probably took me maybe about a week or so. Like, I can't remember exactly, but it took me a little bit of time to not think I need to like check my email or, whatever. But it was probably shorter than you might think. Like, because life, your time, like, things fill up. So it doesn't take very long to get quote unquote distracted with something else. And this year especially, like, I still thought about work. I still thought about client work. And processing like, oh, we could do this or we could do that, or, plans for my clients. I just didn't really act on them as much.
Even just having that time where you're like, I don't have to figure this out right now is some of the best thinking time where your subconscious gets to play and gets to like think through these scenarios. Do you feel like that time where you were thinking about it but not acting on it helped you transition back?
Because I was working on my own stuff kind of throughout the month, I was it wasn't as much downtime and like subconscious whatever. Coming back into it is not always easy though. And I learned that last year. I learned it the hard way because I was not super ready to go back. Like I really felt like maybe I'm not doing the right thing. Like maybe this isn't what I'm actually passionate about. And I realized that it was just kind of that process of getting back into it and kind of working those muscles again. So I was a little bit more prepared for that this year. But I think that just with so much happening with client work, once I got back, it was a lot easier also to just kind of dive back in and figure things out.
Even when I like take a weekend off, I feel that where it's so hard to get into work, especially if I know all the things that need to be done and don't know where to start. Like that is, and we were talking about like I'm a little ADHD girly, so sometimes I'm like I don't know where my brain just functions and you know other people do and mine doesn't. I feel like especially after a month where it's like okay, what even needs to be done? Like where do I even start? Did you kind of knew to expect that this time? So like what was the first thing you did? Was it just checking your email or like when you were back, like how did that go?
Yeah, it was checking my email, Voxering clients again, and just kind of doing a general like, okay, let me get the state of the union, like what's happening, what are we working on right now, where are things as when I left them. I took it pretty slow that first week. It was just, you know, giving myself a lot of grace to not check a bunch of tasks off my list and more just kind of get my bearings again. But yeah, it is hard. It's hard coming back, especially after doing something that you enjoy and then having to switch your mind back to something else you enjoy, but a completely different part of your brain that's working. And, you know, that is challenging. Before I left, I was starting to think, I was like, oh, maybe I don't really want to do this. You know, I really love my job. I don't really want to take a month off. Like that's kind of sad, you know, all of those things. And then a few weeks before I came back, I was like, I really don't want to start back again, even though I love it. Like I really do, but I just wasn't completely ready. And I don't think it doesn't matter how many weeks I take off. I don't think I'll ever be completely ready to start back again. So it just kind of is an easing back into it. It takes a couple of weeks to just get your brain, you know, work mode again and for your eyes to adjust to the computer
Oh,
again.
really?
Like that was especially last year when I had a lot less screen time. Like because I was working a little bit more this year, I was on my laptop a lot. But last year I had so much less screen time and coming back I was like I cannot stare at the screen as long as I used to. So that, which is so sad, like that took time to, you know, work back up. It was a good reminder to look away from the screen.
My gosh, I don't feel good when I look at a screen too much.
Yeah.
And it's like you were saying, where it's like, okay, you didn't want to step away from work and then you don't want to step back into work.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe the physics concept works for humans too. Like things at rest stay at rest, things in motion stay in motion.
Mm-hmm.
And so often I see people stay in a situation that they hate because it's just easier to stay than to change.
Yeah.
Even though it's like we know how to do the thing on the other side, like you know how to work, you're really good at it. But it's still just that almost like decision to change is almost the hardest part in such a weird way.
Yes.
But yeah, looking at a screen. I don't think we should look at screens so much. Like I said, I'm trying to like get my phone screen to be less addictive.
Mm-hmm.
And kind of to your point, like I can sit and work for 10 hours on a screen. And we were talking about this before we hit record. I can work 10 hours on a screen Monday, Tuesday. I'm shot for the rest of the week.
Yeah.
Like I can't do more than probably 25 hours looking at a screen where I feel it's really good, productive work a week.
Yeah.
Which is hard when what we do is 90% online.
It is so hard. And sometimes I look at other people who have jobs that involve things that are not on screens. And I'm just like, oh man, that would be nice sometimes. You know, like there are times that I can, you know, write things down, or if I'm trying to figure out something, put them on a like index cards and move it around, you know, like, but then I still have to transfer that to somewhere online. Looking at a screen and even just like thinking and being on for that much time is something that one, I had to work back up to, but also I really can't work like full focus, work tons of hours a day. And there are studies, you know, to show that people don't really do that anyway. And your most productive work happens in, you know, the first 4 or 5 hours. But I found that to be true. And especially coming back after taking a month off, you know, you just have to work that muscle again and kind of get up to that.
have found myself thinking about work too much. And this entire year, I have, well, as you know, one of my clients, we're launching an app.
Mm-hmm.
This year has been such a whirlwind work wise that I think I've been more so than working too much, feeling the internal pressure that I should be working more because
Yes.
there's just so much more to do for my clients. And that's before I even start for the podcast or for my agency. And this month, again, I've started to say I only need to do 4 to 5 hours of work a day. Like
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm going back to being like, if it doesn't get done in this time, then it wasn't meant to get done. And when I give myself all day, they always say a task will take the time you give it. And
Yeah.
so it's like I'm still getting things done, but now I'm limiting. I'm not going to feel bad if I don't start working until 9:30 or 10 a.m. I'm not going to feel bad if I stop working at 3 or 4 p.m. And I'm going to try really hard not to work outside those hours. And if I do, it's like for my stuff and my
Right.
stuff only,
Which is
not
different. It
overworking.
feels
Yeah,
different. Yeah.
exactly.
That's so true because so many people in society work 8-hour days and they're getting paid to be in the office for 8 hours or, whatever. And while they are working throughout those 8 hours, probably not all of those 8 hours are like super highly productive work.
Yeah.
But because when I'm working, I'm tracking my time so that I know what I'm doing, when I'm doing it, all of those things and how long it takes me. I did used to feel really bad when I was only hitting like four at a good day, like 4 hours.
Yeah.
And I would be at my desk longer than that, but actual work was only like 4 hours or so. And I talked to a coach about that one time, and she was like, "Oh, that's like 4 hours is good. Like you're doing great." And I was like, it feels so. I feel guilty almost doing that, and be
Yeah.
like, "Well, if I work 4 hours, then I'm done for the day, and I can do whatever." And usually it's not 4 hours straight because my brain can't handle that either.
Right. Yeah.
But it is kind of countercultural in a way. And I kind of feel guilty sometimes when I decide, oh, I'm going to go like sit out in the sun for an hour, get some vitamin D while everybody else is, having to work and, doesn't have that option. But it is nice to be able to have that option and know that, I can only work as much as I'm productive and then it doesn't make sense.
I'm really curious because I'll be the first one to admit that I like the way I market the agency to business owners is like, you don't need to worry about these things. You shouldn't spend your energy on these things because you're marketing. If you already have some content, let us repurpose it for you because you're not doing it anyway. So stop thinking about you need to be doing it. And really speaking to that like busy entrepreneur, busy business owner who I'm like, let me take it off your plate. Let me just simplify your life. And I'm the first to admit that I do that for everyone else and I suck at doing it for myself. And so, because you sit in that same space of wanting your clients to live a better life and the business to just support that life, how does that actually look for you, right? You're kind of getting into it with working 4 hours a day, we have to be okay with. But how do you, maybe on the logistical side too, as well as the internal pressure of working more? I'm curious how you handle all that.
Over this past year, I have started trying to have 2 days a week where I only work on my business. And then the other 3 days I do client work. And sometimes I do, my own stuff in there too. And that has helped me a lot because I can't, it's really hard for me to do my stuff and client work at the same time, like in the same day, because I start on client work and I'm like, oh, I have so much to do. Like I can't get to this other stuff. Or I start on my stuff and oh, I have all these ideas. I don't want to switch over to something else. So having those divided into like, okay, today I'm working on client work and then tomorrow I can do this thing for my business. That has helped me a lot. Even in the past like week or so, I've been asking myself the question, what like is the most important thing that I need to do right now to hit the goals that I need to hit? And sometimes that means, writing copy for a sales page. Sometimes that means making sure that I'm posting on Instagram, for my membership. I just have to decide like what is the most important thing that I'm doing right now and then choose not to worry about the other things.
That's really good advice. I have started to implement that a bit as well. And there is an episode about 2 different ways to prioritize your day, guys. It's like 2 episodes back from this. One author that I really like, his name is Charles Duhigg, and he has a book called Better, Faster, Smarter. Oh, here we go. Okay. This is why it helps to sit by your
Nice.
bookshelf. But he was talking about how he does the same thing. He's like, just choose your top priority from the day. And if you get that done, then what's the top priority for the next day? What's the thing that's going to push the needle forward, right? Like you said, a sales page is important. That needs to get done before just like random emails. But it's so easy to just get caught up in like, well, I need to be doing something. What could I be doing right now?
Yes.
And then your attention gets pulled and the main thing never gets done.
Yeah. And I found too that being consistent in a schedule helps that with so much, because I know when my brain works the best, and those are early morning hours, 8 to 10. That is when I should do the work that requires the most brain power. Usually that's like a big project, like writing something for myself or writing something for a client, or those types of things where I have to actually be thinking at full capacity. And so knowing that I need to do those things first, and then I can do other things that are maybe important and urgent, but not quite as high on the brain power list. I can do those things after I get that first thing done. And that has been really helpful too. People talk about that, but I was in a call with Ashlyn Carter, and she talked about that, how she like blocks her time based on her brain capacity. And that has been a huge game changer, just thinking about when I work best and what I need to put in those hours.
The same podcast I was listening to the author Charles on, he was talking about it in the way of like creativity versus like tasks or technical stuff or analytics. And to your point, if you are sitting here running analytic reports for a client, then you don't want to just switch that day and be like, well, now I'm going to ideate for my business.
Right.
It's like once you're in that certain mindset, so often we can feel bad that we can't switch our brain. But instead, if your brain doesn't switch, don't make it. Just keep flowing with what your brain is like willing and wanting to do. As like entrepreneurs, it feels like we need to be able to do all these different things and like be able to do them at the drop of a hat. And I love what you're saying. What's your capacity for this today? I know on Wednesdays, if I go like do stuff in person and do calls, I'm spot on. But if I have to sit and do client work after 2 days of it, it doesn't happen. I end up dooming. Something unproductive happens.
And it's so helpful to batch those things together too. If you're doing this type of work, analytics, whatever, you can do all of that at once, as opposed to doing a little bit on Monday and a little bit on Tuesday. And then your brain's not ping-ponging back and forth between all of the tasks too.
So I want to go back to your month off, your sabbatical. If somebody's like, okay, well, that's great that Hannah could do that, but I just have too much to do. I don't even know where to start. How did you set it up so that it was okay with your clients? You weren't just leaving them high and dry and hanging. How logistically, and how do those conversations go?
I was so nervous to tell my clients about this the first year. So I had talked with a business coach, and we had kind of made a plan for how all of that was going to go, and I can get into that. But I was so nervous to tell my clients because I was afraid that they were going to say, oh, this is too much, or maybe, oh, we don't actually need you on our team anymore. All of those things went through my head. But when I actually did send the email, every single one of them was like, this is great. We can make it work. I'm so excited for you. And that was really nice. And so now that that's more kind of in a pattern of what I do and my clients expect that, it's a lot less scary. It still is a little bit nerve-wracking, I'm not going to lie, but it's a lot less scary. So I started with just figuring out, honestly, I started with the finances and figuring out how much do I need to set aside so that I can still pay myself and pay all of my bills and my business bills and all of those things, even if I'm not having income coming in. So I started, with that number in mind, and then divided that by however many months I had left until I wanted to take off, and just set aside, money. And if I had saved too much for taxes or something like that, then I would just like move that money into my quote, quote, sabbatical fund. So I would just like pull money from where I could. And I don't have tons of expenses. I'm single, like I don't have anybody else relying on me. So it was a lot lower amount than some people might have, but I still think it's possible for anybody. You just have to be strategic about where you're spending your money. have a low overhead so that you can take that money and set it aside for, a month of not making anything. And then I planned out, before I even told my clients, I planned out what I was going to do to make it happen for them. And so some of them have teams and others don't. And so for the ones that do have teams specifically, I planned out what I could do in advance and, the deadlines that I needed all of those things in by, and then also, which team members could take over some things and, how I was going to train them. So that worked really well. I made a lot of Loom videos and a lot of Scribe recordings and all of those things. Had one master document for each client.
I can attest to how well you did that and had everything needed because of one client we work on together. And so it definitely was organized, everything you need, who's going to do it.
And my goal, I know that taking a month off for myself does put a little bit more work on other people. And my goal is to mitigate that as much as possible so that I'm not being like, oh, I'm going to go have fun and everybody else is working so much. And so we got a lot of things done beforehand for a lot of clients. And while that might be a push for them before July, during July, they don't have to worry about it. So it's kind of a break for all of us, right? But I want to make it as easy as possible for my clients because that is my job. My job is to make business as easy as possible for my clients. And so even if I am going to take a month off, it still needs to be in a way that honors that. And so I want to make sure that they have everything that they need and that their team is prepared for anything, and that there are other people available who can help problem solve and all of the things that might come up.
So I'm going to flip us a little bit. I know you just became and are kind of going through the process of being the new owner, CEO for Outsourcing with Love.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us a little bit about, I know a little bit about Outsourcing with Love. We've talked about that, but tell me a little bit about how that came to be, how you made that decision to kind of add something else into your business ecosystem and what it's going to look like.
I'm super excited about that. Outsourcing with Love started in 2019, and it's an online directory that connects small business owners with vetted support, virtual assistants, online business managers, social media, kinds of different support-based businesses where entrepreneurs can come and say, hey, I need, a social media manager or I need a virtual assistant, and find one in our directory. And there are people who have been vetted, so they have worked with at least 2 clients before and have testimonials. That's what Outsourcing with Love is. And I was in the membership just as a member pretty much at the beginning. And it was really super helpful for me when I would get regular inquiries. I didn't have to worry about, when my next inquiry would come in, or I didn't do any marketing. That covered all of that, which was so nice, especially as I was starting my business and didn't really have the capacity for all of those things. So then Emily, the girl who founded it, she became a mom and just realized that she didn't have the time and the capacity for that anymore, even though she loved it. She just didn't have the capacity for it. So we were in conversations for a while, and I ended up taking over that, and which is super exciting and also, terrifying in some ways of just kind of taking over this business that has been run so well. And Emily has put so much love into it. And so I'm excited about where that's going, and we're working on a rebrand that Emily had started. I'm excited to finish that up and launch Outsourcing with Love 2.0 into the world, which is a really exciting thing. But it does add a lot more work, let's be honest, to my day-to-day. And I think that's kind of where having specific days where I'm doing internal work, which I include that kind of in my internal work, has been really helpful because I have days that are set aside for that, and I don't have to steal any brain power from client work to work on that. So it's made me have to be a little bit more strategic about when I'm working and when I'm what I'm doing when I'm working. But it's been a really good lesson.
That's awesome. I am really excited for you. And I'm in this network. I'm in the Bucket List Bombshells. My coaches, Shay and Cass, started that company, and they have a Facebook group. And that's where I'm always there's people in there at all stages of business. And I can help you find somebody because I know working with clients, so many clients I've worked with, they hire somebody for their website or for their socials and it falls flat and it doesn't, it's not somebody like you're saying who's vetted. They have clients, they have testimonials, they've worked with somebody almost like in this ecosystem that you and I live in, where it's like so many of the people you and I work with, like we know who they are and we are connected to them through like one other like business owner in our ecosystem. And so I love that Outsourcing with Love exists and that you're taking over and it's continuing into this 2.0. And I'm glad for the reminder too, because this is a really good resource for me to even be like, hey, I'm not the right fit for you, but here's somebody who like can be. Here's somebody that's like vetted.
And it is hard to know, like outsourcing in your business. I've actually never outsourced much in my business, but I have been on the other side of that. And I know that that's like a super vulnerable place to be, because you want somebody who is going to care like you do and is going to do the quality of work, and finding somebody who has other past clients to back them up and be like, yeah, they did a great job is super helpful.
I'm curious, and honestly, you don't have to answer this if you don't want to, but I'm curious. I don't know much about your, like, I think you have a team, right? Or at least like somebody who works with you, or
I don't know.
It's just you.
It's just me. Yeah, it's just me, which, eventually I would like to have a team, but so far it's just been me. And a lot of that is because I haven't done a lot of like outside marketing. Honestly, like Outsourcing with Love has taken care of all of that. So I haven't had to focus on my own marketing. And I'm, starting to ramp that up as I get farther into business and kind of moving into other areas as well. But right now, because it's almost exclusively client work that, takes my time, then outsourcing hasn't made a whole lot of sense. And I don't think it makes sense for everybody to do, which, might be a hot take, but I think that it depends on, where you are in your business and what your goals are and what your revenue goals are, what your expenses, like there's so many things that go into like, are you actually ready to outsource or not? But yeah, no, I haven't really ever hired anybody.
It's a lot. But to your point, because this is something I'm dealing with right now too, is how many clients do I want to have on a roster? And do I want to build a team that can support that and really grow or not? And really the genesis of Sleeked Marketing is that I have so many people that I'll meet. To your point, I'm not marketing, but I'm out meeting people. And then somebody's like, oh, I have this business. And I'm like, tell me about it. And then it's 15 minutes. We find something where they're like, clicked. I can make this update. I can make this change, make my life easier. Or you're right. I don't need to worry about doing these things. And then the next question is like, how do I work with you? And I'm like, you can't, because I don't want to be working more. I don't have the mental energy to work more.
Yeah.
And I want to be able to like help the more entrepreneurs and like serve them without it impacting how I'm serving my current clients. And it's always this tension I'm having between, do I build something that can help a lot more people, or do I keep it so that I'm doing more for less people? And financially, where do I want that to be? And part of it too is just looking around and seeing everybody else seems to always be growing and doing all this like, $1 million years, and reminding myself like, I don't need $1 million. Yeah. Will I maybe have it one day? Yeah, like cool. But I'm not necessarily chasing that number. And like you said, my expenses are really low month to month, like business wise, personal wise. Like I drive a 2002 Beater. I'm not living some expensive life, so I don't need to be bringing on every client. But at the same time, it's hard to say no to that.
Yeah,
when it's somebody you want to work with.
It's hard. It goes back to, you have to decide what's important. Like for me, is it important that I can do other things outside of work, that I can serve at church and that I can sit in the sun for an hour, or that I can go visit family? Or is it more important that I hit bigger income goals? And I was actually talking to somebody about that this past week. And while I'm not hitting massive income goals, I am able to do other things, and I'm able to do things that aren't just work. And so there's like that give and take that you have to decide what is important. And sometimes hiring a team will help you with that, but that's more responsibility financially. You definitely have to decide what is right for your business in this season. What are your actual goals? Not what their goals are, what other people are making. What do you want? What do you need? And how can you make that happen in the best way?
Keep your eyes on your own lane, feel confident in what you're doing, and try, not to give into that game of comparison, which is something I love about this podcast, where you and I can be like, you don't have to do it all. Prioritize your time off instead of prioritizing these huge monetary goals that exist just because other people have them.
It's not always, easy. It's never easy. And it's not always that cut and dry, right? Like if I look back at my, toggle time tracking, May and June were super high months as far as like client work goes. I was working so much more than I normally do. But then I was able to take a month off, and so there's always that give and take, and it's not pretty little box as much as I would like it to. There are always going to be things that come up in a week that are like, ugh, like this is taking my prime time. But I think that, just knowing kind of your end goal, it's really hard to not look around at what other people are doing and feel, you should be meeting those goals as well. That is hard. But knowing what's most important to you, I think helps redirect your brain a little bit into like, okay, yeah, they're hitting these goals, but they're also not doing these things that might not be important to them, but they're important to me.
Well, I have one more question with points A, B, and C. I want to know what you are currently obsessed with. And I typically just ask that question as like a blanket, what are you currently obsessed with? But I want to dig a little deeper and go through some categories.
Yeah.
So we're going to start with food. What food are you currently obsessed with?
Ooh, always ice cream. Never not ice cream. Let's go with ice cream.
Heck yeah. You need to come to Omaha, Nebraska and visit me because we have the #1 ice cream spot in the country.
Well, let's make that happen.
Yeah, according to Yelp, but it's so good. It's literally the best. Fresh local ingredients. My favorite flavor, I didn't even get this year because they had it for like such a short amount of time that I like missed the window. I usually go get like pints of it. So if you are in Omaha, everybody, cone flour, you already know what I'm talking about. But they have this raspberry oatmeal cream pie. Ooh. And they have it for like 2 weeks a year when they get fresh raspberries from like a local supplier. And I go get like pints of it because I'm like, it's only a short limited time. And this year I missed the window.
Oh no. Bummer.
Yeah.
That sounds good though.
So good. What are you currently obsessed with when it comes to entertainment, or when you are like taking downtime and reading, watching, listening, anything in that category?
I love listening to podcasts, usually business podcasts, just because that's what my brain works, or how my brain works. I also love watching cooking competitions on Food Network. So that is kind of like, if I'm going to watch something on TV, that's usually what it is.
Last night, I was like, where did I go to get cheesecake? I got cheesecake and baked goods and went home and watched the British baking show.
Oh,
I'm like, what's the name of it? The Great British Baking Show.
Yeah.
Yeah. Amazing.
So fun.
Okay. Growth, or like whether it's like growth in business, growth in yourself, just kind of like self-help things or habits. What are you obsessed with in that arena?
Right now, it has been making sure that I get up early enough to have my morning routine and spend time reading the Bible and all of those things before I start work. So for me, that looks like getting up at 6:30, whether I want to or not. But I have figured out a hack for that. You know how your iPhone snooze is like 9 minutes. Mm-hmm. So I don't sleep with my phone next to me either. But so I get up, my alarm goes off, I walk over to my phone, I hit snooze, and I sit in my bed for 9 minutes. I don't lay back down, but I sit like just to wake up, and then it goes off again, and then that's when I get up. And that has made it so much easier instead of just having to immediately get up to kind of ease into it. But that allows me to have a slower morning and get everything done that I need to and still start work by 8 or 9 without feeling like, oh, I really just like, I'm so behind, I need to get into work.
Yeah, that's so good. Part of what I was experiencing was like, I wake up and then I like look at my phone and it was like work emails that came in over the night. And then all of a sudden I'm like, well, I don't want to get up because then I have to work. And I did nothing in between the waking and the working.
Yes.
And that has been so helpful for me too. Yes. For me, I'm not even trying to wake up early. I'm not going to lie. I'm like, if I get up at 8, but I don't have to start working till 9:30 or 10, like that's kind of how I've been organizing it, but I love that. So good.
Yeah. I'm a morning person, so I love being up early and especially like being up before everybody else wakes up. And that is where my brain works the best, but not everybody's brain works like that. So that's kind of the beauty in it all is like we can do what works best for
Anything else on your current obsessions list?
Zillow.
What do you look for in a house? Okay, you said you scroll Zillow like TikTok.
Yes.
What are you looking for?
My sister put that in her birthday post this past year for me, and I thought it was hilarious. Yeah, I am not going to buy a house anytime soon, but I love looking at Zillow so much. I love kitchens and gas ranges. I love like the pot fillers that are on the gas range, or having a pool in your backyard, or like thinking about like flow with the kitchen and the living room and all of that when you have people over. It's so impractical for me to look at right now, but I definitely do that. I love it.
Well, they say if you want to be a millionaire, then you should go to homes that are like $1 million houses, and just being there will like elevate you. So I think it's the same with Zillow.
There you go.
Okay, last question. Hannah, if people want to connect or work with you, how can they find you?
Yeah, my website is hannahAllenstudio.com. You can find me there. I am not really on social media a whole lot, but social media, my Instagram handle for my business is Hannah Allen Studio. And you can also find me at outsourcingwithlove.com if you're interested in that. But I'm also putting together a free like little guide on like the steps that I took to take a whole month off. And so that will be at hannahAllenstudio.com/guide.
Amazing. Well, this was phenomenal. I know we like went long. I couldn't get myself to stop asking questions because
This is great.
We get to talk when we're working together, but I feel like we never just do little virtual chats. So Thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks, Teresa. Thanks for having me.
Now let's go get obsessed. A huge theme in my conversations and coaching calls with business owners is shedding your shoulds, clearing your mental load of the hundreds and hundreds of shoulds so that you can limit your decision fatigue and spend your energy where it really counts. So if you're finding yourself in this never-ending cycle of thinking, I should post more, I should work out more, I should go to more networking events and call my friends more, I want to help you break the cycle. Let's sit down for a 15-minute chat, completely free, and I'll help you shed 3 major shoulds from your mental load. Just click the link in the show notes to schedule your virtual hangout. And a huge thank you to everyone who makes this podcast happen, my amazing team at Sleeked Marketing and the incredible women at Fast Forward Productions. Now let's go get obsessed.